What up? What up? Here we are with another episode of the Hooshwere podcast. I am your host, Chase Minnifield, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. We have on the line today a guy that's not driving, finally. Like, this is getting absolutely ridiculous, but he's starting to lock in now. Max Milien, what's up, Max?
What's up, world? Don't listen to Chase. It was only 2 times, but you know what I'm saying? He said he's not going to allow it anymore, and you don't want to mess with Chase. So I said, don't worry. I got a spot for us.
Please. I mean, it's like we have it on the calendar. We have our episodes on the calendar, you know what I'm saying, weeks in advance. And the guy shows up to the podcast and he wants to be, strapped into a seatbelt, you know what I'm saying? On the little magnet thing in the
Hey man, this money never sleeps, man. I'm always on the road, but I'm good. I got you from now on. Don't worry.
We have a special guest today. Actually, this is definitely a first. This is definitely a Hooshwere first. This is something we haven't had on the podcast for sure. And he's definitely, I've already told him before the start, he wins best hair, 100%.
For sure.
So, Lloyd Sy, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, guys. Thank you so much for having me on Hooshwere. This is awesome. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
He's currently in Charlottesville and currently finishing your doctor, right?
That's right. I'm in the 6th year of my PhD. I'm in the English department.
Wow. Yeah. 6 years.
Jeez. This is how PhDs usually go, it's like people are in school forever. 6 years ain't too long, actually. Some people do it for like 10 years, 11 years. I feel pretty good.
So you've been in Charlottesville for the last 6 years?
That's right, yeah. Okay. I got here the day after the Unite the Right rally, so it's been an eventful time.
That's funny. So you were coming from, let's talk about why you're on the podcast, first of all, and then we'll get into like all the stories I want to give, your experiences and ideas of what you think about Charlottesville. But you were recently on Jeopardy. Tell us about that. Like, how did that even come about?
That's a great question. There's a straightforward answer, and I think there's a longer answer too. Straightforward answer is that last July I was in my hometown, which is Rockford, Illinois. It's near the Wisconsin border, and I was sitting in a Starbucks thinking about how I could make some extra money. I knew I was good at trivia. I knew I was good at like academic competitions. Yeah. And I figured the Jeopardy would be a good way to make some extra money because the graduate stipend isn't very large. So I took a test online and then I went through a couple of rounds of auditions. And then after a few months, they called me and asked me to be on the show. And I flew out to LA last November and taped my episops. And then my episodes aired, I guess, a couple of weeks ago at this point, in the first week of January. Yeah, and that's the short answer. You can go into every detail.
A little deeper because we've had people on this podcast that have been on Shark Tank. You know what I'm saying? We've had people, but this is the first Jeopardy. Jeopardy has. I watched Jeopardy. Jeopardy seems like it has like a perfect time slot. You know what I'm saying? But you can't not watch Jeopardy, or you can't not like at least like know that it's on TV. You know what I'm saying? So did you go watching it at all?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. It's like kind of American tradition, to watch Jeopardy. It's everywhere. So yeah, I was like 6 or 7 the first time I remember watching Jeopardy. And I've always been from Rockford. So I was coming home from first grade and I'd put on the TV and, the early Jeopardy broadcast would go on. Back where I'm from, it actually airs at 4:30 in the afternoon, not at 7 p.m., which I think it does throughout the East Coast. Yeah, I'd get home and immediately watch Jeopardy. I didn't know what was going on when I first started watching the show. I didn't know any of the answers. But, after a couple of years, I was like, oh, I actually know most of these things. And I was like 10 or 11 and I dreamed about eventually getting on the show, but I didn't actually think it would ever happen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So essentially, like, you want to make some extra cash. You're like, listen, I'm smart. I'm good at these. I'm quick on the trigger, so I got quick reflexes, kind of like reflexes, and so you want to go into Jeopardy and make some money. So how much did you expect to make?
To be honest,
if you just show up, like how much are you getting if you just show up?
Yeah. So every episode, there's 3 contestants. And if you come in third, they give you $1,000. But here's the thing. They don't pay for your ticket and your hotel. So if you finish third, you're basically breaking even, if anything,
If that.
So I was like, I gotta win, Otherwise, this whole plan's been for nothing other than like one day of excitement, which would have been fine in its own right. But my first focus was just getting on the show. And then once I knew I was going to be on the show, I was like, well, winning would be great, but no matter what, this has been fun. And then I won one, and that was maybe the first time that I actually that it wasn't actually just a joke that I was gonna like make a whole bunch of money. Like, I was like, wow, and like in like 20 minutes, I just made this $24,000 or whatever. So I didn't expect anything when I got on the show. Only when I like got that first victory did the reality of the financial incentive actually make sense to me.
So you win and you get whatever money you've like done throughout the show, right? Like that.
Yeah, only if you win. Yeah.
Only if you win.
Is there like a book or something to study for Jeopardy, or do they give you like, this is a list of the categories that we'll use, or or is it just like you just gotta basically know a lot of random information?
Yeah, they don't help you prepare, but the best way to prepare for Jeopardy is to just basically be a Jeopardy fan for 20 years, and once you start watching it, you kind of see how they like write questions. You see what sorts of categories come up. I used to do like Quiz Bowl back in high school, like academic competitions. So I did a lot of studying back in high school for Quiz Bowl, and that kind of translated pretty easily over to Jeopardy.
Gotcha.
And what is Quiz Bowl? Is that like debate team?
It's kind of like Team Jeopardy. It's like you got buzzers, someone reads questions, you ring in, the questions tend to be longer, and you're on teams. That's how it's different from Jeopardy. It comes in a whole bunch of different forms, but there's a pretty good circuit over in Illinois. That was like my major high school activity, so it kind of made me,
Are you naturally competitive?
In Quiz Bowl back in high school, yeah, our team was really good. We finished in my senior year. We finished 5th in the nation, so we were a great Quiz Bowl team. And it wasn't just me. I was like team captain, and I was the one who was maybe like most serious about it. But I had 3 like really good teammates who were also like to this day are my like best friends. So it was a lot of fun and really meaningful to my life.
That's awesome. So okay, you decided to go out here. You're like, all right, it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be on TV. How your stardom changed? Like, have people recognize you, or people follow you for no reason? Like, what's up with? How are you? Can you go to Bodo's Bagels?
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I've been back in Charlottesville for one day. Since the whole thing happened, since Jeopardy happened, and so far no one's recognized me. So, to be fair, I've had my hair tied up.
There you go.
I feel like that might be my most distinctive feature. But I was just at home for a while. And Rockford is a place that is not much good comes out of Rockford. We've had like one good thing happen in the last like 10 or 20 years, which is that Fred Van Vliet on the Raptors is from Rockford. He actually graduated in the same high school class as me. And otherwise, there's not much going on.
You got competition now.
Right. He tweeted at me, but he makes more in like one quarter than I did in Jeopardy. So, there's not really much of a competition. But back home, I was getting recognized fairly often, because again, nothing happens in Rockford really. So I won 2 games on Jeopardy, which, in all things considered, is not like super like it's not in the record books or anything. But that was like one of the coolest things to happen in Rockford for a while. So awesome. So back home, I was getting recognized by random people, and yeah, that was really cool.
Well, once this Hooshwere episode drops, I'm sure they're gonna be knocking at your door.
Right?
Exactly.
So essentially, you got 2 episodes out there. After you won the first one and you got your nerves, was there any like nerves right out the gate where you was like, all right, when did you realize that like, all right, I'm here, I got to perform. It's a live audience, right?
Yeah.
Live audience, all those different type of things. Like, did you feel like you had to, was there like a bump or a mental hurdle you had to get over to really kind of like lock in, or was you like ready to go from the jump?
No, I was definitely not ready to go from the jump. Like, the first episode, the first one that I won, I got my first question wrong, so I was like, all right, well, got one wrong. This is not good. This is not off to a good start. I mean, I was just very nervous. You're up on the stage and you're aware that in like some way you're up in front of like millions of people, like not yet. They're taping the episodes well in advance, but everyone's going to see everything you do. So I was very nervous, but I think probably like 5 or 6 questions. And once I got a question right, which was, I think, like the 5th question, then I was like, all right, this is just like playing Quiz Bowl, and I played hundreds of rounds of Quiz Bowl. So like, it wasn't anything I wasn't used to. The audience was like kind of large. It was like maybe like 80 to 100 people. My parents and my sister were in the audience. Yeah, I mean, like when I won the first game, I mean, one of the things that you see all sorts of like behind the scenes production stuff when you go and like actually see how it's made. But like one of the most striking things is that they actually film an entire week's worth of episodes in one day. So like I won that first game and I started the second game, which was the second day. I started it like maybe 15 minutes later, so there's like no turnaround. You go run to the wardrobe room, you change your shirt, and then you come out. So from the moment the first game started, I think I was like on pure adrenaline for like 2 or 3 hours until I lost, which is like 2 hours later. So
They just have like people lined up ready to go against the next winner. Like
yeah. Well, they bring in like a whole week's worth of contestants on a taping day, you know.
Wow.
Oh,
Crazy.
geez.
That's interesting. Did you like see these contestants and were you like sizing people up?
A little bit, you know, but yeah, I mean, like you spend all morning with these people, you know, and then you spend all day with them. And honestly, I maybe it was just a batch of people that came on our taping day, but people weren't that competitive, you know. We were just like all really happy to be there, you know. It's just really cool to be on Jeopardy. Super surreal is the kind of feeling that everyone had. And also, like, everyone's kind of like a trivia nerd. So it's just kind of cool to be around like 10 other trivia nerds for a day, you know? So it's just a really fun experience. And I think there was maybe a little sizing up. I got to know like what people were good at, like what their jobs were, what sorts of categories they'd be good at. It's like a little helpful when it comes to the competition. But, you know, mostly it was really good natured.
Now, the only questions I can answer on Jeopardy that I ever get right. Well, I'm not going to say that. People will be like, wow. But nah, the only question I really get right is like sports related questions. Did you have any sports related categories that you had to answer questions for?
You know, I love sports too. Let me try to remember this. There was one. I think we had a boxing category or like a combat sports category. But otherwise, I think, you know, we got a lot less sports than I would have liked. You know, because I think sports is something I'm pretty good at. You know, but yeah, there was a boxing. I think they asked about like Bruce Lee and Floyd Mayweather and I forgot who else. You know, a couple of like MMA fighters. But that was it. You know, like, sports maybe not as heavy as like some of the other categories.
That's what I would have been nervous about. Like, that's what they would have been like, why is he over there sweating? Like, I would have been worried about what questions is about to come up. I'm only doing 3 categories. You know what I'm saying?
The worst is though is when you get that category, you still get it wrong. It's like, oh God, that's not a good start right there.
Yeah. I mean, the first question, the one that I got wrong, that was a literature question. You know, and I'm an English PhD student, you know, and it's just announced, you know, like he is a graduate student in literature. First question, literature, incorrect. You know, that was embarrassing.
All right, so you get out there, you do. I didn't know that. You just taught me something new. Like you win one, they don't even let you go and sleep and put your head on the pillow.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I know they did all of them in a day.
All right, that's easy. So essentially, you just change outfits, go in there for the next round. So I guess, you know, for the person that like has like the longest outstanding Jeopardy run, like technically they could have been there for like a month or like 3 weeks or something like that. I'm assuming. Like, is that?
Yeah. I mean, so for example, I went to go tape on a Monday, right? Mm-hmm. On that Monday, they taped 5 episodes, you know. Then on Tuesday, they also taped 5 episodes. And on Wednesday, they taped 5 episodes. So that's 3 weeks worth of episodes in like a 3-day span. The guy who was on the streak on the day that I showed up, he had come there like 2 or 3 weeks before, you know. So he made 2 trips. Yeah, and he was on a 13-day streak when I beat him. So he was really good, you know. I didn't expect to beat him at all. And he's also a very nice man.
That's awesome. Well, you know, for me, for sure, like I'm super competitive. I love to see somebody else in a space where they're competing at, and to see how that works. But from a business standpoint, and I was the owner of Jeopardy or the CEO of Jeopardy, that's a smart business model right there. They get it all done. They pay for 1 production crew, they get five episodes out of that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, and the prize money isn't too much unless you're the winner, right? So
you know. They over there only paying out the people that win.
That's how it should be.
So, all right. So, essentially, let's talk about kind of like you just told us that you're from Rockford, right?
Yeah.
From Rockford. You know, where did you end up going to undergrad at?
I did my undergrad at Brown University up in Providence, Rhode Island, right? Yeah, very far from home. I knew I kind of wanted to get a little away from home. And yeah, so I went to Brown and graduated in 2016. And then I spent 1 year living in Boston, and I was a software developer because in undergrad I studied English and computer science. Computer science was kind of what I did for, you know, the sort of employability, you know.
Yeah.
English is what I did because I love literature, you know, and I love reading. After a year working at that software job, I came down here.
You got a CS. It was a minor or like a major. You graduated with CS.
A major, yeah, double major in CS and English.
Essentially, like you got CS, you got people out here making 200 grand in CS easy. You know, you want to come back and do your PhD. That's a lot. You turning out money right there.
Yeah. I mean, it's for love, you know, and it's still genuinely. Yeah, you're right. I really have to love literature to go from software to this, you know. But but I really do. So I haven't regretted it at all. And it's great because, I mean, in case this doesn't work out, I can always go back to software, and there's always jobs there. So
Sure. Do you not have like obviously I have a tech company. Do you not have like I always feel like the people that can code like have their hands around the future of what the future looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you see yourself as possibly being able to create something in the coding space at all if you wanted to do that?
yeah, I mean, maybe, I haven't like lost my ability to code because I've been, sort of independently continuing to work on coding projects over the last 6 years. There's also ways in which actually like the humanities are trying to be more computational, and they're trying to use like coding to do sort of traditional research in history and English. So there's all sorts of weird ways in which these things intersect. I mean, yeah, I hope in the future I can use these skills more because they are. I mean, there's so many cool things that happen in the world of tech, and it would be great to be involved in that. But I also, I'm very aware that I'm super far away from that world right now. Like I'm like trying to be an English professor. That's very different than a software engineer. Yeah.
And it's also an interesting like dynamic between, I wonder what your opinion is with this, but you have things like Chat GPT and artificial intelligence is becoming more and more advanced. And then you're on a show where, what I'm saying, like it's like human intelligence, you know what I'm saying? So how do you feel like technology is going to affect like, I don't know, general education going forward, for kids, students, etc.?
Yeah, that's a big question, and I think this Chat GPT thing may be like one of the most significant things to happen to education in a while. And I ain't gonna lie to you guys, like I've been doing these job interviews, and sometimes like they'll give you the questions beforehand, and I don't know how to answer them. So I've asked a couple of questions to Chat GPT and used those answers in my interviews. I'm doing the thing too, man. So I mean, I don't know. I think that what Chat GPT shows is that it's extremely formulaic in some ways to do kind of like basic writing tasks. And so I think that if we're still going to have English departments that are like notable in any way, like they're going to have to teach increasingly complex skills. And, sometimes teach critical thinking. And often they don't do a good job at doing that. I think they're going to have to start doing a very good job at doing that, and hopefully I can be part of a department that's like good at teaching sort of like more like complex skills and also just, inspiring people to read literature, which I found a lot of value in, but not everyone finds value in.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, okay, you went to Brown, studied English and CS, worked at a tech company, then ended up at Charlottesville. All right, so what was why Charlottesville? What made you choose UVA?
Well, I mean, first things first is there's an awesome English department here, one of the 5 or 6 best English departments in America. And I was so happy to get in. My decision for PhD programs came down to UVA and UCLA. My parents really wanted me to go to UCLA because they're Filipino. They want to like be around other Filipino people. There's not that many in Illinois, but there's a gazillion Filipinos in California. So they were like, you got to go to UCLA. They didn't care about the departments or anything. They just wanted me to go to California. But, I visited there and I visited here. And I just liked it so much more here. I don't know. It was just like, it was sunnier. It was nicer. Everything was more beautiful. People were so nice, So it came down to kind of like small things, like, really like people were nicer to me and I liked the coffee more, But at the end of the day, I'm very happy I came here because, the professors and the friends that I've made have been awesome,
It's probably, I can definitely see, first of all, you're probably the first person that's picked Charlottesville over Los Angeles.
Yeah, in history.
100% history.
I can see how the intimacy, definitely there's an intimacy for sure. I think I took one like English class at UVA. It was extremely intimate setting. And I think it was actually on the lawn somewhere.
Oh, cool.
I took that class at. So I just remember that being extremely like, intimate and, we had the trees outside. I felt like we was in Thomas Jefferson backyard over here working on like the English language. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
Was it MR 110, Chase?
Maybe. I'm not sure what it was.
I think I had the same class because I didn't have to take 106. We got to skip and take 110. I think that was the same one.
Yeah, something like that. But I can understand the intimacy that Charlottesville brings. Charlottesville is a very intimate community, especially with the people that you're studying with, right? Like you guys experience the city together and get to go try restaurants, get to go try different things and stuff of that nature. So Awesome. Glad that you chose to come here and become one of our distinguished alums. So,
There you go.
with that being said, what has kind of been one of the favorite things about the University of Virginia so far since you've been there? Like the city as well, not just like the actual school, like everything that you've experienced in Charlottesville in your 5 or 6 years right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You've been there longer than we went to school.
Yeah.
You see people go, right? Like I got students who I taught and then now are working, like they came in at 18 and now they're off like working somewhere else in New York or something. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to say about why I've loved Charlottesville and UVA, The department, again, English department, really top-notch department, and people have been extremely kind to me and nurturing as I like try to become a professor, But I think, you just talked about the intimacy of Charlottesville, and that's the other thing, like I can go to like any of the coffee shops in town and sort of reliably run into someone that I know, and that's really great. That's not true in most places, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like a city that feels very much like a small town, I love I love going downtown or to any coffee shop because I know I'm going to run into someone I know. Who it's going to be, I'm not sure, right? But that makes things exciting. But also, yeah, I mean, it's just like it's that sense of kind of like, I don't know, this is the place where I sort of became a total adult, I know that like college is supposed to do that, but this is where I've spent my 20s, and this is where I became a grown-up, and so there's just every single like corner in this city has like a good memory for me. So
Speaking of teaching kids, do you feel like, with the rising cost of college and, degrees like English not seeming so employable, is that something that, you or the department worry about? Like, hey, how do we get kids interested? How do we get kids still wanting to major or even minor in English when, kind of the whole world's telling like this might be a dying degree, so to say?
Yeah, no, it's extremely worrying. Yeah, everyone's worried, and it's very hard to get a job as a professor, as like a tenured track professor, because these departments are not like the most in-demand things, Everyone knows it's an institutional crisis. It may not end. It may end with like English departments disappearing and me being unemployed when I'm like 50, But I mean, I have hope in a couple of things, like it's still extremely important to write and to speak. And I feel like English departments are probably the best place to house that kind of like learning, It's, whatever industry you're in, you need to be able to write well and speak well. And if you can, then you're at a real competitive advantage over like a lot of your competitors, So I think that there's still a deployable skill in that way. I mean, the other thing that I have hope in is just that people like stories. People like reading stories, and, even if it's just like a class you take for fun or for your personal enrichment, I think there's still demand for reading these novels, this poetry, and I've seen very enthusiastic students. I mean, it's not every student's going to be into that, right?
Right.
But there still are a lot, especially in a place like this, where there's such a diverse population that's interested in so many different things.
No, that's a good question, Max. That's way to step up with a good question.
You ain't got to sound so surprised, Chase. Come on, man. It's usually this is about the time you talk about I got sleepy eyes, man.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen. You professional. See, if it was one of his friends on this podcast, you get all kind of craziness on here. So as far as A game for this one, Lloyd.
Man.
So what does it look like? What do you like? Obviously, you're trying to you're looking to become a teacher, and you're interviewing at different places. Like, take us through that process. Like, what does that even look like? Where do you start? Like, is there like a database of people looking for jobs? Like, with job open positions and stuff like that?
You may or may not remember that when you were writing papers, you'd have to format it in MLA style, And MLA is actually Modern Language Association. It's like a real association. It's like a real organization. And it's basically like the country's like literature professors, And so they release this sort of job list, and that's pretty much where everyone advertises their jobs. And so right around the beginning of every school year, a bunch of jobs will pop up, and they'll keep on popping up throughout the fall. And if you go on this list and you see if any of them are in your field, and then you apply, you send in a cover letter and a resume. It's just like any other job. If they like you, they'll ask you for a first round interview. They usually do this to like the top 10 to 11 candidates. And then if they like you at that stage, you get invited to go on campus and visit, do more interviews, give a talk. They do that for around 3 to 4 candidates, and then they pick from there. And so I'm very fortunate to have a bunch of final round interviews in the next like month or two. So that's why I'm going to be away from Charlottesville a whole bunch. And yeah, I'm excited for it. I got very lucky. This was a good year for my particular like field of literature. I study Native American literature, in particular Native American literature from the 19th century. And that may sound really, kind of esoteric and small, but there were a lot of jobs in that field this year for some reason. So, yeah.
That seems pretty important, actually.
Yeah.
It's almost like some history in it as well. That's awesome. All right, you go do that. You just want to ride off into the sunset, get your job, go get the tenure, become 80, 87, 90 years old, and you're still teaching, still making that good money. You've used the same course syllabus for the last 30 years. You know what I'm saying?
That's the dream. Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, that's nothing wrong with that. So is there any thing that you wouldn't do as far as locations to go to? Because, you got colleges, every college has their own feeling. You have city colleges, you have college campus colleges, you have rural colleges, you know what I'm saying? So is there anything that you is off limits for you as far as potential opportunities?
No, I don't think so, honestly. I think at this point, the only real stipulation is that I want to stay in the United States, and some people go teach in Sweden or Turkey or something, or Saudi Arabia, they take the Saudi blood money, it's who knows? But I grew up in that, Rockford, again, a nondescript town with not much going on. I was very happy there. Still, I'm very happy when I go back home. So I'm not someone who's hard to please. I pick Charlottesville over LA, as I mentioned. So there's nowhere I wouldn't go, I prefer being on the East Coast. Most of my friends here, but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any place I wouldn't want to go.
Is it something where some other jobs where you got to start off small, a lot of jobs where you might start at a community college or a junior college and work your way up, or are you just going for, hey, this is my resume, and you're just applying to different departments and it doesn't matter the school or the prestige?
Yeah, I have literally applied to as many places as I can, everything from community colleges to small liberal arts schools to enormous schools, like big state schools. And I've gotten, interest in various different schools all across the spectrum. You can never really predict, what's going to be, where the interest is going to be, somebody who's a really good community college professor, which is extremely important. It may not be the exact same person who's really good at a big state school job, there are a lot of UVA professors who would really struggle to teach community college, because they're just totally different beasts. But I'm trying to be broad, trying to be diverse, trying to sell myself in a lot of different ways. It's working okay,
There you go. So yeah, man, that's awesome. I think the last thing that I want to ask from my standpoint is all right, I decided I want to get a chance at Jeopardy. I want my shot. You know what I'm saying? How would I do that? And then tell us how difficult the pre-test was and the Zoom test was to be accepted or selected to go to the actual show.
Yeah. Good question. I mean, so I'll tell you the whole process. There's 3 steps to this. First step is you take what's called the anytime test on Jeopardy.com. And it's called the anytime test because you can take it anytime. For me, it was in that Starbucks on a random afternoon back last July, and it's 50 questions. It's like a web browser sort of thing. And you just type in your answers. After that, you do the exact same thing, 50 different questions, but you got to do it on Zoom so they see that you're not cheating.
Okay.
And then the third step, and this is, I think, the most important step, it's assuming that you've done well on those first 2 tests. They have you play a mock game with a couple of other people who want to be on the show, right? And so they pull up a Zoom. They used to do this in person, but now it's pretty much all on Zoom. You go on Zoom, and the producer of the show or the casting director is there. You play a game. You play a few rounds of Jeopardy, and it's not like an actual competition. You're buzzing in with your ballpoint pen, just pretend basically. But at that stage, they're not testing your knowledge, right? They are testing to make sure that you look okay on camera and that you're not spazzing out, you're not bad with other people.
Scratching or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So at that stage, I knew this going in. I knew okay, what's most important now is that I look good on camera, I tried to look real good. I shined all the lights that I could on me, and then after that, they're okay, we'll call you sometime in the next year and a half if we want you, I was really lucky. They called me after 4 months, as far as how difficult it is to get, I think that a lot of people who end up on Jeopardy and doing really well on Jeopardy take the test lots of times, I just mentioned the guy that I beat who was on that 13-day streak. I think he had tried to get on Jeopardy for something like 8 years before he finally got on, you know? So it's just like something that you just got to keep on trying, right? Because you never know when they're going to want like somebody who fits your profile on the show, right? And I think that if you're like an intellectually curious person, if you're somebody who likes to, you know, read the news, read books, like watch TV, watch sports, if you're interested in all sorts of different things, then you'd make an ideal Jeopardy contestant because the categories are broad and there's so many different things that they ask about, you know? So I'm not sure if any one person's going to be good on Jeopardy, but the surest bet is somebody who's like always trying to learn, you know? So yeah.
Good life principle in general. You should always trying to learn. Like,
right, exactly.
When we doing business for sure is we got to always keep on trying to figure out what's a better way of doing things, you know? So that makes sense. So there you guys have it, man. Trying to get on Jeopardy. This is how you need to go about it. I might have to go in there and take that test myself. They'll probably be like, don't take it again. Don't take it again. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Boy, let people know where they can reach you at, best way to stay in touch with you, keep up with you, all those different type of things like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm on Twitter, you know, Lloyd Sy, Lloyd Sy 333. Yeah, I'm not like super active on social media.
Does Jeopardy? I mean, does Jeopardy have a lot of like fans? Like Jeopardy?
It does. My follower account like increased tenfold after I went on Jeopardy. Also, like this sports talk dude, Nick Wright, like shouted me out because I shouted him out. So there was like, I got like a whole bunch of fans because of him.
I know Nick Wright. He's the LeBron guy.
Yeah, huge LeBron guy. So, you know, I went from 200 to 2,000, which isn't like that big either way. But you know, I'm always just happy to talk about the experience or hang out with anyone, you know. So Twitter's a good place to reach me. But thank you all for having me on the podcast. It was awesome.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next week. And that is it. We're out.